Hello everyone, welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. This video is part of the YouTube series that I am making called Zero to Hero Business Central. In this series, I already uploaded few videos on my YouTube channel. In this particular video, we are going to learn about CodeCops in Business Central. CodeCops basically enforce the official AL coding guidelines on the code that we write. So there are a couple of CodeCops available like PerTenantExtensionCop, AppSourceCop, UICop. Also, we have one general CodeCop which is available by using which we can actually enforce the AL coding guidelines. Do not worry about what does this per-tenant extension cop means, what does this app source cop means, what does this UI cop means, because we are going to see all of these in code in action. So let us actually first see what does this per-tenant extension cop means. Per-tenant extension cop is an analyzer that enforces rules that must be respected by extensions that are meant to be installed for individual tenants. Let us actually see an example of what does it mean to have a per-tenant extension cop. Let me give an example. Let us say you have built an application and this is basically a business central extension, and you have actually deployed it to two tenants, basically two customers. So let's say one is tenant 1, one is tenant 2. Now let us say first customer is using your extension and he had found a bug that enters the data incorrectly in the system. So this one actually reports the bug to you and you fix that bug for customer 1 and also on the customer 2, because you are actually deploying a standard application to all the tenants. So here also both 1 and 2 will get the bug fix. Basically, 2 haven't actually discovered that bug, so he did not have any incorrect data in his system. But 1 who had actually discovered that bug and who had reported that bug also reported that there is some incorrect data in his system. Now, you don't have to do anything for the second customer, but on the first customer's environment, you need to fix his data. So what you're going to do is you're going to actually develop a PT, which is also called as per tenant extension, which is basically specifically developed for the customer 1 and it need not to be installed on the customer 2 or the tenant 2. So this is basically developed to be installed on the extension 1, so that's why it is called as per tenant extension. Now let us actually see what does the app source cop means. Rules that are meant to be respected if you want to publish your app to AppSource. So we have Microsoft AppSource. It is a marketplace from which we can actually install extensions in our business central environment. So there are a lot of companies who are actually developing these business central extensions. So those organizations or companies will be publishing their apps to the AppSource, and from AppSource we have to actually install that in our environment. So whenever you are developing an extension or a business central application and you wanted to publish that app to app source so others can actually use that app, then in that case your app should basically obey all the app source cop rules. So whenever you are developing an application, it is important that you also enable this app source cop if you actually wanted to publish your app to app source. And if you see the definition of UI cop is an analyzer that enforces rules that must be respected by the extension that are meant to customize the web client. Like for example, let us say you are creating a new action button or you are creating a new page. You are basically customizing your web client. Basically you are introducing new pages, new action buttons. In that case, what those pages and action buttons should follow, what guidelines the pages and the action button should follow, basically that will be covered by the UICop. Do not worry about all this theory because we are going to cover all of this in code. So let me actually go to my Visual Studio Code. You can set up your code cops in two ways. You can either set it up for your user specific or you can set it up for your workspace specific. So in here, basically, if you wanted to specify your AppSourceCop user specific, then you need to go to user settings. I have opened my command palette and in here you can see Now I'm going to open user settings. This is a JSON file, and in this JSON file basically I have other configurations, but you can also specify your code cops related configurations. We are not going to specify the code cops per user basis, but we are going to do that per workspace basis. So in here you can see I have a folder called .vs code. In this folder I'm going to actually create a new file called settings.json. So all the code cops that I will be adding in settings.json will be applicable only for this particular project or for this particular workspace. So let me actually start by creating the JSON file, and in here I can type al dot enable code analysis, and in here I have to make it true. So basically first step is to enable the code analysis. After that we need to add the code cops analyzer. So now let me add al dot code analyzers, and it is basically a JSON array. That means it can actually take multiple code cops. So let us first add the, if I do intelligence by control space, here you can see we have AppSourceCop, which we have discussed. We have CodeCop, which we have PerTenantExtensionCop, we have UICop. So let us actually first see the CodeCop. And CodeCop basically applies the rules that should be obeyed. Like normally, if you are developing an application, what are the standard AL coding guidelines that should be followed by your extension? Those can be found in the CodeCop. Now, once I add the CodeCop guideline, you can see there are a lot of warnings in my project. So let me actually navigate to my code units, employee operations. In here, you can see now I have a warning on employee page. Let us now see what does this actual warning means. It says variable employee page is unused in on run. So without CodeCop, I have to manually check if this is actually used or not. But with the CodeCop, now here you can see it basically gives me a warning and I have to fix that warning. If I don't want to use this employee page, I can basically remove this particular employee page. So let me actually remove this employee page and let me show one more example to you. Let me actually create a variable called var integer of type integer, and now also here you can see it has given us the warning. Basically var integer is also not used yet. So what I am going to do is I'm going to basically put a value inside 10. Now if I put the value inside 10, now the warning from here is gone. But let us see what does it mean. The variable var integer is initialized but not used. We have just initialized but did not use the var integer yet. So it is also now helping to use the var integer. So let me do this. If var integer is greater than 10, then now let me actually do begin and end, enter. Now here you can see the begin and end turns into an error because it says only use begin and end to enclose compound statement. Currently we do not have any statement, but if I just say message var integer, let's say percentage 1 comma var integer. Now also it is throwing us the warning saying again only use begin and end to enclose the compound statement, because this is a simple statement, so I don't need this begin and end. So whenever you are actually developing your extension, you need to use these code cops to make sure that your code basically follows the AL standard coding guidelines. So that is what the code cop is. Now let us actually see the other code analyzers, which are this AppSourceCop, PerTenantExtensionCop, and UICop. So let us first see the UICop and let's see what does it say. Once I choose the UICop, here you can see there are 31 problems. It basically says action with action name should have a value for the image property. Basically, I did not give any image property over here, so it is basically asking me to provide a value to that image property. Again, if I go in here, it is also again same, again with the action. Here also it is again with the action. Here also again with the action. Action is basically an UI element, so it is basically giving us the error related to UI components. So that is what the UICop is. Here also you can see there are again couple of warnings. We can say action with the name processing action should have a value for the image property. And in here you can see the official documentation link over here. If I click on that one, it will basically go to the official document. Here you can see UI cop info. So basically that was an info, that was not a warning but was an info. And in here you can see there are other UI cop info warnings or information that should be taken care by the developer whenever he is developing the application. Now let me actually go in here. Let me actually remove the UI cop, and now let's see what does the per-tenant extension cop does. Now here you can see when I choose the per-tenant extension cop, we have 7 problems in our project. Let us actually see what does those problem mean. Table 50103 department position table is missing a matching permission set. You can see all of these errors are related to permission set. So it is important to have a permission set for the table objects whenever we are doing the per-tenant extension cop. So if you wanted to actually publish this app to a specific tenant, then you need to actually get rid of all these errors. That is done by actually adding the permission set. So let me actually go in here, let me remove this, and let us see the last one, which is the AppSourceCop. Now if I click on AppSourceCop, it is again going to give me all the problems. Basically now I have 82 problems. That means if I wanted to actually package this extension, and if I wanted to publish this to an app source, I need to get rid of all of these errors first. So if you see over here in app.json, there's no context sensitive help URL, but that must be specified if you wanted to publish this extension to the app source. Also here you can see in department position table, we have an error saying field with name line number must use the data classification property, and its value should be different from to be classified. I have just to be classified, but it shouldn't be to be classified, it should be any other type that we have. Basically we need to classify the fields that we have. So that is what the UI source copy is. So if you see all the code cops that we have AppSourceCop. If you wanted to publish your extension to the app source, you should basically follow all the cop that is in AppSourceCop. And CodeCop is standard AL coding guidelines. Per-tenant extension cop is if you wanted to publish your extension to a specific tenant, then you should follow this. And whenever you are doing UI related customizations, you should follow the UI cop. It is important that you should follow all of the guidelines that are specified by these code analyzers to make sure your app follows all the coding guidelines and works smoothly whenever it is deployed to the app source. So that's all that I have about code analyzers in Business Central AL. If you like this video, please consider subscribing to my channel. I'll be uploading more videos in this particular series called Zero to Hero Business Central AL. I am uploading all these videos on YouTube, and those videos are completely free for anybody. So if you wanted to support me in this journey of creating a course which is called as Zero to Hero that can take you from complete beginner to an expert in Business Central AL, you should definitely consider subscribing to my channel.